I do think that the U.S. is shifting its focus, and again, I think that this was apparent when Richardson was made the head of Southcom. So it was actually earlier this year, around February and March time, that she actually gave a press conference, or I don't even know why these Southcom generals do these like interview type of things. And she was basically saying that they would have to convince the Guyanese people that a U.S. base would be in their interest, right? So she's saying that in February, March of this year. Now you have this whole referendum in Venezuela, and now the Guyanese government is saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we do need to have a U.S. military base in Guyana for our own defense. And when she said this in February or March, she was talking about how reckless Venezuela was and how Venezuela was this harbinger of regional insecurity in the region. And so I think that the U.S. is strategically seeking out a base in the region, and not only a base in the region, but it wants it to be in a more stable state. And so, Guyana is where CARICOM's headquarters are. Guyana is, a landed and it's quite sizable Caribbean country. And so it would make sense for that. And while she made the focus in that talk on Venezuela and competitors like China, I think that the U.S. interest in the Caribbean region is majorly increasing because of how Southcom views itself as competing with China in the region for resources. And not only that, but of CARICOM states, Guyana is China's #1 trading partner. And so Guyana, I think for Southcom, would, knock out two birds with one stone. You have the U.S. base there to, help do the regime change that Richardson wants to do in Venezuela. And two, they'd also combat what they view as undue Chinese influence in the Caribbean. Now, what better way to do it than to have a base in the country who's the largest trading partner with China? I also think because of Guyana's relationships in its development, because you also have Chinese exploration companies in Guyana for the petroleum as well, because of Guyana's relationship, that's why Guyana has not taken any sort of hard stance on 100% being open or accepting to U.S. bases or boots on the ground ever since February, or even now. A U.S. military base in Guyana would be largely unpopular, especially in this climate of protest against U.S. corporations like Exxon in Guyana. So Guyana is not the most quote unquote stable place because it would be unpopular, but Guyana would be the ideal place given its position in the region, not only as, CARICOM's headquarters are there, so you'd have a direct influence in CARICOM that way. You'd also have Venezuela next door, and you want that regime change. And then, of course, the China competition angle, whereas the current government assumed its position after the elections in 2020 or 2019 after the no confidence vote. And they called on, Mike Pompeo, who wanted to sanction the former APNU PNC alliance government for not giving away power as easily or not doing easy transitions, and he was going to sanction them. The PPP government that is currently in power was sort of welcoming to that, but even they, like the government before them, didn't sort of consent to broadcasting messages into Venezuela that Southcom wanted them to broadcast into. And so I think in that sense, Guyana is trying to play a more so ideologically neutral actor. But of course, you cannot be an ideologically neutral actor when you have undue corporate influence in your country. And I think that that's what Venezuela is pointing out. And so in order to sort of push some of those claims back, Guyana has been more vocal about, wanting partnerships with China, about wanting partnerships with Saudi Arabia, about wanting partnerships with a bunch of other different countries to sort of diversify its sort of diversified corporate portfolio in Guyana. But even that is also a risky game as well, because you have it where some U.S. corporations wouldn't want other corporations working in or partnering with the Guyanese government in Guyana. And so it's a risky development game that Guyana is playing, but Guyana is playing it because it knows that it is being sued out of the ExxonMobil deal. It also knows that ExxonMobil is increasing tensions between itself and its neighbors. And it also knows that ExxonMobil is the reason why the U.S. is expressing sort of undue uh, defense interest in Guyana. And I don't think that any Guyanese party, political party, would want it to have been on their watch that a U.S. intervention or a U.S. base was created in the country. I think that would be a permanent stain on that party's record, even more so than the stain of all of these parties have veered away from, the sort of communist or socialist movements they had historically.